Easy. Good afternoon. Welcome. This is our work session. Today is February 21st, 2024. We'll be getting an update from our Office of Emergency Management, Lori Hodges and her team. My name is John Cavalis, County Commissioner residing in District 1, joined by my Commissioner colleagues, Kristen Stevens from District 2, Jody Sheddock McNally from District 3. We have our definitely esteemed County Manager, Lorenda Volker, and actually do a bit of a shout out for our Assistant County Manager, who's off to the side there, keeping track of things. With that, is there anything you'd like to say, Lorenda? Then we'll turn it over to Ms. Lori Hodges, if you would be kind enough to identify yourself for the record, and I believe you know the routine.
Lori Hodges, Director of Emergency Management, Larimer County. This is just our regular update for you guys today. We don't have a special presentation, so I was just going to have kind of each of our team members talk about some of the key projects that you guys might get questions about, might hear about, just so you guys are in the know. So I thought I'd start. I always end with Ricardo, so I thought I'd start with him today to give him some extra time, because he always gets like the last 2 minutes. Ricardo.
All right. My name is Ricardo Perez. I'm the Inclusion and Engagement Coordinator with the Office of Emergency Management. I wanted to share a few things, a few projects that we're working on, but one of the main projects that we're working on this year is the Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Accessibility Plan that we're updating. So this is a 3-year plan for 2024, 2025, 2026 that we're updating, but we're updating the previous iteration of the Equity and Inclusion Plan that the office had. This plan's basically focused on doing engagement for underserved communities within Larimer County, and how do we provide emergency resources information for those folks and create that community connection that we want with those communities. But we have 5 draft initiatives that we've shared. We've done vast research this last 2023, worked with a few community partners as well as our municipalities to try and identify what kind of needs, what kind of things can we work on in the next 3 years for informing and keeping our communities connected that are underserved around emergencies. So we have 5 draft initiatives that we've been sharing with the Healthy Larimer Committee of the Larimer County Health Department, our community organizations that we've worked with in the past through the COVID recovery efforts, and then our municipal emergency management partners. But we have 5 initiatives identified, which the main one, the first one is going to be updating our Larimer OEM website, our public website, so that it's accessible. Then we have a tool from Larimer County IT that's helping us identify what changes we need to make within our website, within the content, so that it's more accessible, so that screen readers that folks use can utilize it. But yeah, we're working on identifying those changes within the website, and then myself, the web editor for our team, I'm going to go ahead and make those adjustments and see what we can make different to make the website more accessible. But the plan is by 2024 is to have the Larimer OEM website be up to accessible standards that IT is helping us with. IT is giving us a lot of tools, a lot of support, and things to improve. So that's going to be the first initiative that we have as a draft. The second one is really creating an access and functional needs support team for emergency management. Access and functional needs is an emergency management term, but it basically talks about providing access to those folks that need to function in an emergency. So a specific access, if it's linguistic, if it's mobility, if it's any kind of accessibility need, is we're going to create a team within emergency management folks as our office and our partners to try and identify those needs within the community, and how do we help address those needs in the community. But 2024 will be a chance to get partners together and start thinking about those needs, and then see what we can put together and work on together. But we have a training that's scheduled in April at our Larimer County Office of Emergency Management building. That will be an awareness level training for access and functional needs for emergency management partners, and any community partners that are also interested in improving those efforts. So we have a training scheduled, and that's going to be that awareness level training that then a team will be built from that. But and then the third initiative of that plan will be trying to incorporate more people with access and functional needs in our emergency management exercises by 2025. We've done it in the past, in past exercises, but we want to be able to plan with folks rather than plan for folks that may have disabilities, that may have other, linguistic needs, or any languages that may be that may be spoken throughout the county, that we can help bridge some gaps, but try to identify ways to bring those folks in some exercises that we're doing so that they gain that awareness of these are the things that may happen in an emergency, and this is the things that may help them as well, and then help our processes. The fourth draft initiative that we have is increasing connection and resources to a vast kind of list of community members, but it's people with disabilities, non-English speakers, older adults, people of color, economically disadvantaged people, people from the LGBTQ plus community, and the youth. So we have a few ideas on how to bridge connections and see how we can provide resources for those folks. And the last initiative that we have that's a draft is continuing to engage with other groups that are working around diversity, equity, inclusion, so that we share some of the work that we're doing in emergency management and see how we can learn from other folks, other efforts going on. But I'm going to present to the Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Board next Wednesday on these draft initiatives to hopefully get some thoughts, get some ideas, and then see how we can complete the plan for the next 3 years. Any questions on that?
Thank you, Ricardo. I think we have time to see if there are any questions as we go along. Commissioner Stevens, do you have any questions or feedback for Ricardo?
My feedback is this seems great. I think that this is probably a gap that we have in some of the work that you're all doing, and you've identified that and you're working on it. And so, bravo. Thank you.
Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bravo, thank you. I echo Commissioner Stevens' comments. I think this is excellent that you guys continue to discover areas that we can improve and close the gaps. And I'm curious, not only the linguistic and maybe underserved populations, but we have some corners of the county that maybe we touch base with once a year. Usually when it's not snowing in the winters. So I'm curious about some of those more remote areas that people first they like to be not contacted, but this is an area that maybe we need to make sure they're aware and connected. So I'm curious about the outreach up there, and are you planning anything kind of up in kind of the northwest corner or some of the other kind of remote areas that we don't always get to connect and hear from them? Just curious about that.
Yeah, that's a very good question. So, and I believe we're going to be doing a community evacuation plan. This might be something that Camille talks about a little bit more, but I might just leave that to you if I don't want to steal all that.
Well, if I might, Mr. Chair, I just want to add and invite you then. I usually do a yearly, at least twice, maybe once or twice a year, yearly meeting up in the Jahos Valley, which is kind of, the southern portion, and they consider themselves a very separate and distinct area, and I think this might be a great topic to have you come and present. They're very concerned about that, so just want to add, but go ahead, Camille, I think you appreciate it.
Well, before Camille starts,
Go ahead. I may have a question or a comment. So first of all, thank you for it seems like a big emphasis of your equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives is on perhaps doing a better job reaching out to people with disabilities and other kinds of access barriers. So I'm incredibly grateful for that. I think when we've seen the various surveys over the last year or two, that seems to be an issue that's coming forward. So you're directly responding to that. So thank you for that. I think that's important. My question is, and then I'd like to share a resource that make sure you're aware of it. My question is, how are you actually going to reach out to people from those communities, to include them in some of these, some of these decision-making or these deliberation processes. So what are your plans? Who are the stakeholders? And maybe you're going to get input from EDI board, et cetera, but who are you going to reach out to and how are you going to do that?
Yeah, so for people with disabilities, we've been connecting with Disabled Resource Services from Larimer County, also with the ARC of Larimer County, who serves people with developmental and intellectual disabilities. And we started re-meeting with the Fort Collins Interfaith Council, but that's a huge network within the faith communities of Fort Collins. And from that, a disability task force was built for addressing and kind of highlighting needs within the community of people that have disabilities. So we started joining that conversation and seeing how we could be plugged in emergency management and see how we can help improve resources and information. But that's one of the examples. We've also been meeting with the community organizations La Familia and Heart and Soul of Loveland to see how we can engage for the Spanish-speaking communities, the Latino communities. We also reached out to the Immigrant Refugee Center of Northern Colorado in Evans and Weld County, but they also serve Larimer County. And Camille and I are going to see how we can create a preparedness workshop with them and co-create that with their navigators that speak other languages. So that's just a few examples. But yeah, there's a list of community organizations mostly that we need to connect with and that we've already connected with and see how we can introduce these programs and work with them and see what capacity we can make it easy for them to provide these resources.
Wonderful, Ricardo, thank you. And the resource that I wanted to make sure you were aware of that might be helpful, it's at the state level, but there is the Colorado Commission on the Deaf, Hard of Hearing, and Deaf Blind. And they have, their main purpose, and they get their funding from the Disability Telephone Users Fund, an assessment against our phone bills. But they do a lot of work in making sure that people have access to communication services. And one of the things that we just approved the rules of, they have a rural communication services program where they can deploy people who know sign language. So I just want to make sure you folks are aware of that. Thank you.
So a couple years ago, I may have already told you guys this, but I do not remember. But a couple years ago, we created a team motto, really a motto for office, which is doing the most good for those who need it most. And so what we're trying to really focus in on with that is if people have resources, they can get resources. So they're not who our target audience should really be. Obviously, making sure that they know how to get those resources is important, but we really need to base our services around those who either can't get those resources, don't know that those resources exist, or there's some kind of a barrier to them getting those resources. So Ricardo's really kind of a leader in our office in this space, and then Camille is our other leader, so I'll have Camille kind of start and give the rest of that update.
Thank you, Lori. Very good segue.
Well, howdy, y'all. My name's Camille Millard, and I'm the Preparedness and Resilience Coordinator for Larimer County. I do have a couple of interesting updates coming your way. Like Ricardo said, I'll go ahead and segue. You're asking, what are we doing to kind of reach those more remote areas of our county? We are going to do another evacuation drill this year. It's going to be an annual thing, so look forward to it each and every year. And the community that we are just in the very beginning stages of planning with it is definitely that North 40 region. We're right now in a toss-up of whether that's going to be in one of the North 40 communities, or Denver University also reached out and said that they would be interested in hosting that evacuation drill at the mountain campus. So we haven't narrowed down a date or the specific location, but it'll definitely be in that region.
I would like to continue since I didn't get a chance answering my question. Thank you. But I appreciate you bringing that up because I have been reached out by veterans who feel that they have disabilities or are not able to access resources. And also, I was thinking about that. Also in DeHosa Valley, there are some veterans who are homebound that have, it's especially in the winter, it gets to be kind of scary. And they have not had a lot of contact with the county until I started going up there, and that's why I wanted to make sure you connect. Also, we have some folks who are living in some of those areas that are renting, who are part of the Nepalese community that, might have, that work in Estes Valley and Estes Park. And so I've been hearing from these folks up and around Red Feather and Crystal Lakes have been contacting me and talking about, just trying to figure out where all the resources are. So I appreciate that, because I think when those folks feel confident that they have heard of this, or they get a practice, or know that they could pick up the phone and call and ask you questions, it just makes them feel like they matter, they're valued, and they belong. And so I really appreciate all the outreach that you've all done and that you continue to do, and just want to thank you for reaching out for some of those individuals. And I just think there's those groups, we could even expand more. They have great outreach, but I think we can even expand more for those who maybe still aren't as comfortable being involved in a group, if that makes sense, but there are connections. And just for Ricardo, I'll just let you know, our very good friend in Estes Park is now living in Loveland, Jose. So just want to make sure you knew he's still around, but and he wants to stay involved. So just thank you for that.
Yeah.
Well, and if any of you in your community conversations or anything do come across an individual who maybe doesn't want to connect with a larger group or whatever, please refer them to either Ricardo or Camille, and then we can provide them services, whatever that looks like.
Yeah, I'm always very interested to have one-on-one meetings or whatever, meeting the community members where they're at. I think that also I like making new friends, so that's how you do that. So I think, like you were saying, we're doing a lot of more outreach with our hubs this year. Last year, we had a big focus on the Dare to Prepare program and getting those sheltering supplies stationed at those hubs. This year, we are doing quarterly meetings with our hubs, and we're also Shale had a lovely peer exchange program that existed online for the community, not just for hub members, but mostly that was the outreach program. That program that peer exchange kind of died off, and I'm in the hopes of reinvigorating that with something of a little different method. We are actually, if I forgot to pass these out before the meeting started, but if you could pass them out, I'm starting a book club through the hub that goes through different resilient books that are out there, or mental health books, or whatever the community is wanting to read. And that is going to be similarly hosted like the peer exchange, online, virtual. It's optional, so our hub leaders aren't like, hey, well, you told me I wasn't going to have to do anything, and now I have to do this book club. No, but I'm using the hub leaders to really spread that through different communities, but it doesn't have to be the hub. Like, if I have 300 people online on a book club, like, I'm game to try it, So this is our first book, The Resilient Life, and I picked this one because actually the NWCG has a reading list where they have educational opportunities, and this one came very recommended. But
National Wildfire Coordinating Group.
Sorry, thank you. But also, in the book itself, it has a QR code that kind of has like a workbook for people to go through and work on the materials that this author talks about. So I think it's a little more hands-on for this first session than here's just a book and let's talk about it. And it's something that residents can take with them. So that is I'm very excited about that. I love to read, and so I think this is pairing one of my passions with reading, making friends, and then also our community hub program. As I mentioned earlier, we do have our Dare to Prepare program, and that is up and running. We had our first session of September of last year, and the September session is going to be another annual program similar to the Larimer 101, so our community members can just get pretty comfortable that no matter what, a September session will always happen. But we're trying to figure out different times throughout the year to reach more community members. So we have a spring session happening that is only meeting on 2 Saturdays, whereas the September session is after work hours, a 7-week program. It's a very niche audience that can make that 7 weeks. So we're playing with different formats. So April 20th and April 27th, those are 2 Saturdays, from 8:30 to 3:30 p.m. We'll be offering that version to see if Saturdays we can reach different audiences or just playing around with that. And we hope to also offer a online version sometime this year. Partnering with Ricardo, we got a grant through La Familia to get all of our materials translated into Spanish. So that's another big push that we want to make sure that this Dare to Prepare program, all of our slides, all of our handouts, all of our activities, they are translated in Spanish. I just need to work with Ricardo and teaching him how I teach it, so he can then translate it and make sure that it's culturally relevant, or this won't work, or that word doesn't exist. Like, you're gonna have to pick something else. So those are the bigger things that we have going on for like the general public, but we are still working with our Larimer County employees too. March 7th, we have our another annual program, our Larimer County employee only How to Prepare for Everything, which I think is a very fun interactive session to bring county employees together down at our EOC, come tour our building, but then it's also teaching our employees this important preparedness information for them to disperse throughout their departments, but also take home to their family members. So that is coming up on March 7th too. So if you haven't taken that course and you would love to watch Ricardo and I sing and dance some more, then please come. I think it's a very fun session, and it's one of my favorite parts of my job. Yeah, so I think those are the bigger projects that I have going on. A lot of it this year is just very public education focused, especially through those hubs. I've talked with both of the emergency managers in Fort Collins and Loveland to see what a partnership with expanding the hub network into those municipalities would look like. How would we want that collaboration to go? So I do look forward to that also being a big goal of 24. So I'll pause there, open for questions.
Thank you, Camille. Colleagues, do you have any questions or comments, Commissioner?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That's a lot of information for me to process. I don't know if you could send an email or give us I know I have this QR code, but could you that would be great. And I think last year others got to come and speak at your Dare to Prepare. I'd love to be able to be invited to be a part of that this time, so that'd be really important to me. And I think that would be great, as I think it's really great, the stuff that you're doing. I know we're very unique here to kind of do that outreach and building those partnerships. And I just think anytime we make those connections and build that social capital with our residents, it's really important. So really unique and very exciting things that you're doing. I'm very excited actually about this book club. Actually, I have that book. I just haven't read it yet. So now I'm motivated to read it. So, but I just want to congratulate you both, because I do hear a lot from residents that they see you at the fairs and how engaging, and how that's probably one of the funnest and best booths or tables that at these community events, that you're engaging and they're fun and they learn something. And I hear that over and over again. So I just wanted to thank you, because for people to come up and say something positive to us is really something. So I just want to congratulate you and thank you for your work, both of you.
Thank you, and I would love to have you come speak this year for Dare to Prepare. You just let me know if you're a spring or a fall type, and we'll make it work.
Fall works.
Commissioner, anything you'd like to say?
No, just thank you. Very exciting work. Of course, I'm always attracted to a book club because I belong to multiple, and so we'll see if I can. But it certainly sounds like a great book, and I love the idea of educating people on how they can help themselves. And I think, with this particular book and reading through this, I think making sure that, reducing stress is one way that you're able to sort of deal with situations. I mean, how to deal with everything. I mean, part of the way you can deal with everything is to be a resilient human being, and part of that is figuring out how not to get stressed out when life throws you these curveballs or emergency situations, right? And so, perfect. Love the work you're doing. Thank you for educating the community, and really trying to get to the community in different ways, whether it's geographically or people who have different issues and concerns. So, I like that. I like that approach. Thank you.
Okay. Who's next, Lauren or Josh? Take it away, Lauren.
Hi, guys. Lauren Barnes, OEM Office Manager, and I help oversee the Disaster Fund, Fund 105. So lately, we've had a lot of discussions with other departments across Larimer County about recovery work and how we are going to streamline the financial part of that. It has been a big task, but very rewarding. And we just had a meeting today to discuss how we're going to work with Road and Bridge Engineering, our finance office here, as well as other partners within Larimer County, and how we will start tracking funding sources as well as the expenses for each disaster. So with that said, it will be a little bit of a learning curve on the fly to make sure that our processes that are in our brains right now actually flow fluidly into the EOC and for the many years after for the recovery work. but we feel really strong. And then within that, within a disaster, we will be working closely with logistics for anything that they're needing as well, and to make sure that all information that is coming out from the EOC in regards to expenses is being streamed the right way. So when our director comes to me and asks where we are at with a disaster, we can give her confident numbers right then and there. So is there anything else that we're doing a lot of other things as well, but not really, yeah.
I do want to say, after Cameron Peak Fire, we set up, a funding code for Cameron Peak Fire, just like we're supposed to, and we went through that fire, and then we started having post-fire flooding, and so then people just said, just put it into the Cameron Peak Fire budget, and we had some money in there, so we just kept saying that, and then we had more flooding and another disaster, and then there was some search and rescue stuff, so it just seemed like it was getting messy, and so we're just trying to really clean up that so that at any point in time, we have a very good picture about what's in Fund 105, what's budgeted in that fund, where's the money going, how much is still set aside for disasters, because as you know, it takes up to 10 years or more to get reimbursed from all the federal and state programs. So this is really going to help us. It's going to help finance as well. So just so you guys know, when we come to you, I do it about once a year, come to you with kind of the Fund 105 status on where we're at and if we need additional funding for that fund. So that's what all this work is going towards, is just to really make sure that it's very clean. Any questions for Lauren?
Questions, comments, colleagues, Commissioner?
So when do you feel, how long will that process take, do you feel like, to be able to sort that? I know it's super complicated, and I appreciate, your work is probably unsung. It's not as visible, and yet, just as crucial is all the work that everyone at the table has. So can you just talk a little bit about like what that looks like to disentangle some of that, and how soon you think that happened? And we also just wanted to point out too that we, in our budgeting, we understand the costs of disaster recovery, and so we included that as a piece in our budget this past year. And we had a lot of community members that didn't really understand how long it might take to get reimbursed from FEMA, for example. And so some of these education pieces are helpful to our community as well. But
Yeah, numbers are not as fun as books, right? So it takes a special person on finance. I will not be doing that. Nobody would join me. But, we have been looking back at previous disasters within Larimer County and actually across the state of Colorado, and working with other agencies. I've had a lot of conversations on the back end to see how are other places tracking and documenting all of the expenses and funding sources that come in, because one disaster could have 13 different funding sources. And one disaster can have many, many, many projects, within it, depending on what it is. So it will be a trial and error, unfortunately, but we have a really good system in place now. It's just streamlining it and making sure that everybody across Larimer County that is working on the disaster knows what the plan is. So it's just building that relationship with engineering, road and bridge, and the sheriff's office, and continuing those conversations moving forward. We have a good understanding of how much things cost in the past, except for we can't say this is exactly what Cameron Peak was, because we did have flooding that was caused due to Cameron Peak Fire. So, a lot of it is estimates, but moving forward, it will be, this is the actual event, and then these are the subsequent events afterwards, and tracking them separately, and just making sure that Lori and the other directors of the departments know what is expected. And then there will be a lot of report running and cleanup as it's happening. So it's just a lot of managing it.
yeah, well, thank you for doing that. That doesn't sound easy, but I appreciate it. And I think it is good to have some clarity, even though they're often events that are caused by the original event. It's still probably valuable to have the information-wise, how much these other events cost. So thank you. Hard work. I would still join your book club. Thank you.
You would be the sole person in it.
I was going to say the same thing as Commissioner Stevens, that it just really unsung work, but so critical, important, and just appreciate you diving into that, because sometimes, that's the the unfun part of it, but it's so critical. And I was thinking, Lori, as I was hearing what she was saying, as you and I attended the Pew Charitable Trust Roundtable, and thank you for coming, but I'm thinking some of this work that she's doing could really help inform some of those conversations. So really would love to have kind of a follow-up with that, because I think we'd like to share that with the Pew Charitable Trust, just some ideas, because I don't know of any other, too many groups that are doing this, or OEM departments that are kind of diving in like this, because they're just trying to scramble to keep up. And so I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, because I think this could be really not only helpful for us, but maybe it can help us inform state and federal policy to help us address some of these issues. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and to that point, it isn't really money in, money out, which makes it so complicated. So for example, we could have a road project that is federal highway money, CDOT money, as well as FEMA money. And then within those programs, we could have another program, the Community Development Block Grant Disaster Recovery, that pays for the match of some of those other programs. So you start to dive in, and you can't just have like a code for a project, because then we have 4 different federal programs and a couple of state programs that all help us put all the pieces and parts together. So it's not an easy thing, but it is important, like you just mentioned, for people to understand the complexities so that they have a process in place before they get there. And then we don't get messed up,
Well, remember we had brought up that idea of doing some kind of national AI thing that people who could just, I know it's very scary. I was like, I could not believe I even said, well, this actually might be a good thing for AI, but at least especially for smaller communities, that you have been so generous with your time and gracious to help smaller communities trying to navigate some of these things and help them. I think there was even someone you mentioned in the room that you had helped a long time ago in a different part of the country. And so I just feel like I think this is really important information. I think it'd be very interesting, and it might help inform. So I just want to encourage you, and I think I'm just really excited to see what you find out, because it is, as we've tried to unwind all of that nationally, it's just, how can we find solutions if we can't even understand where all of the complexities and issues are? The solutions are to be elusive from there. So thank you. I'm excited about it.
And speaking of the Resilience Roundtable, the Hub Network was highlighted, and I had several people come up to me afterward and say, we'd like to do that in our community. So that was very nice too.
Good dialogue. Thank you, colleagues. Josh, I believe you're next.
Yes, thank you. Hi, Commissioners. Hey, Lorinda. Hey, Lori. So just a couple of quick status updates.
Who are you?
Josh Roberts, Mitigation Coordinator, Larimer County Office of Emergency Management. Yeah, last time I checked. Right. Just a few updates on a couple of key programs and projects. We got Community Mitigation Grant. So the application period for our Community Mitigation Grant, it's open currently until March 15th. And so just a plug for that grant, if any communities that you guys are aware of, throughout your travels, it might be a good fit for it, please, spread the good word. Feel free to share contact information. We're super excited to review project proposals, after that application period closes. The plan is to announce award recipients by May. So, and we've got more information on our website, our webpage, larimer.gov/emergency, with that cool story map and all those things. The next project, the Woody Biomass Research and Strategy Project, is in part funded through good friends at DOLA. So we issued a request for proposals late last year that closed mid-January, and our hopes is to hire a consulting organization to facilitate this project and the development of a strategy. We're in the evaluation period now, but we hope that this spring we really kick those heavy discussions, deep discussions off. I anticipate that the project is going to last about a year, maybe less. So we're looking at a spring to spring timeframe on that project. We're excited about diving into some of those discussions there. Next item, hazard mitigation plan update. So our current multi-jurisdictional hazard mitigation plan, it expires in 2026. The planning process takes a while, up to a couple of years. So we'll be initiating our plan update discussion soon, and this was much appreciate the approval and support on the consent agenda yesterday. It allows us to work with State's Department of Homeland Security and Emergency Management in their attempts to secure funding resources through FEMA to help us hire a consultant to lead us facilitate this plan discussion update. This plan is super important, not just for us, but our jurisdictions and, fire districts participate in this plan with us. And ensuring currency of this plan essentially does a lot of things, but one of the things it does is to ensures eligibility for them to access FEMA mitigation grant dollars. So a really important plan that we'll get started on later this year. The next item and the final item, some great news, mitigation grants. So since the time we last were in front of you guys, in addition to this DOLA Woody Biomass project, we've been awarded a few other mitigation-related grants also. 3, totaling about $200,000, all with a focus on developing our workforce in the mitigation, forest restoration space. More good news, the match for all of these grants are all in kind, so it's no cash out of pocket. So these grant programs are Great Outdoors Colorado and the Colorado Youth Corps Association. They awarded us $111,000 for 10 weeks worth of work for Larimer County Conservation Corps crew members to do some restoration and wildfire mitigation work this year at the Ben Del Tour Scout Ranch. So obviously LCCC Conservation Corps, the Scout Ranch, and our Coalition for the Poudre River Watershed, super important partners with us in this project here. So shout out to them and their help. The other 2 grants were both from the Colorado Department of Natural Resources, DNR, through their COSWAP program, the Colorado Strategic Wildfire Action Program, Workforce Development Training Grant. Mouthful there, but very appreciative of those partners. They awarded us 2 training grants. One was approximately $73,000 to do some additional chainsaw operations trainings in the county, basic wildland firefighting courses, working with Sheriff's Office Emergency Services Unit, again, LCCC, and a couple of other, partner organizations in that training. And they also awarded us $18,000 to do, to conduct a few pilot training and burn events utilizing the new air curtain burner that Loveland Fire Rescue Authority owns at the moment. So working on through some of those to plan some of those things out. But
Can you provide also an update on Black Hollow?
yes, I should have said this first and left the good news for afterwards, but unfortunate news, our Black Hollow acquisition and demolition project, we were advised by the state, it was advised by the FEMA that project was not selected for an award through the Hazard Mitigation Grant Programs, FEMA grant program. However, we are tracking on an upcoming mitigation enterprise fund that the state of Colorado is putting together, and timing-wise, we're looking at third quarter of this year. Is they're going to be open to accept project proposals for that fund? We've had some very initial cursory conversations with the state, and we think that project is going to be a good fit for that fund. So we haven't given up hope to try to find fund resources to those folks to accomplish that project. We just got to wait a little bit longer for that fund to come into development. So.
Commissioner.
Thank you. I'm really excited about the workforce grants. As you know, we try to get that a piece of legislation to add more money to that workforce grant portion of COSWAP, but I'll keep working on that. I am very excited to hear, even though we had one door shut on the Black Hollow, made another door is opened, and so let me know how I can help with that. I do have some interesting new information about the air curtain burners and the permits, so I would need to talk to you about that offline so we can try to see what we can do to address that, because I think those will not be able to be used until we can make some progress with those permits. So I'm just curious about that. And then with the sheriff, you mentioned the emergency services and the sheriff. Can you remind me again which grants or which part they're working on with you or collaborating with that?
Yeah, absolutely. So this would be the chainsaw operations classes and the air curtain burner, those trainings specifically. Yep.
Excellent. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it. Excellent work. I can't say enough how all of you and this work that you're doing has just been transformational. So thank you.
Well, we've got a great community of partners to work with.
Commissioner.
Yeah, can you remind me how much the Black Hollow acquisition was going to be?
Yeah, and I might phone a friend about a little more than $1 million, I think, 1.2, something like that, roughly, yeah.
Luckily, your friend is like right next to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you don't have to
You know, some
phone.
of that also, Commissioner, depends on, property owner participation, as well. they're free to drop out. And sometimes these things, because it's such an elaborated time frame, sometimes that happens. But that's kind of what we're targeting in the plan. Yeah.
Do we feel like the grants that you identified that are coming up in the third quarter would be robust enough to be able to handle a big number like that?
Yeah, the enterprise is expecting to receive around 5 million-ish per year from an insurance. It's an insurance fee that gets paid to the state, so it's guaranteed money. So they're thinking that they're going to get about 5 million per year to put towards statewide mitigation projects. And so from everything that we have seen about the enterprise, I mean, it was just in the legislature last year. So the board was formed is that this would be eligible through that. I haven't heard anything that would say it's not eligible. I am on that enterprise board though, so I'd have to recuse myself. But I made sure before I ever got on that board that it wouldn't keep Larimer County from being able to apply. So I am keeping track of kind of what that timeline is and where we're at. So we're hopeful on it. It's kind of our last chance unless there's another disaster somewhere in Colorado where hazard mitigation money comes back into the state and the state opens up another pool. That's really our only option. But then we're competitive nationwide, and that's where the state fund is probably a better bet because then we're just competitive at the state level. Plus, there's less red tape with a state fund than there would be with a federal fund.
It seems like other communities have had these sort of planned retreats or whatever they call that when you're like, yeah, you shouldn't build there again, so we're gonna, right? I mean, it seems like coastal areas and other areas like get those dollars. Do those usually come down from FEMA with that or?
Yeah, but those are like the big,
the really big ones.
splashy, get it in the newspaper kind of projects.
Okay.
Those are like the BRIC projects, the Building Resilient Infrastructure in Communities projects.
Okay.
Those are kind of more of the really big type
Gotcha.
infrastructure projects.
Okay, thank you. Well, good luck on that one.
Josh, would you be kind enough to provide me with some talking points regarding your updates on the woody biomass and the various grants and the activities? I'll be going up to Red Feather Lakes tomorrow, and I bet folks would like to know. So if you could send me an email or something with a few bullet points before 11 o'clock or heading up there around 10 to 11 tomorrow, that would be most helpful.
Yeah.
Anything else? Thank you, sir.
Yeah, consider it done. You'll have it today.
I'm sure. Lori?
I have a few more things.
Of course, please.
Okay, so Cole couldn't be here today. He is the lead for the Integrated Emergency Management course that we have been approved for. So I wanted to make sure this is on your guys' radar. It is on your calendars as a hold. But just know that the dates are August 19th through the 23rd, that we would hope that you guys would go to Emmitsburg, Maryland with us. About 75 people from the county would be going. The exercise that we're planning has a huge policy component to it. So the courses that you would have during the week, as well as the exercises, would have a pretty big policy focus. So I think it would be beneficial. If all three of you guys can't go, if a couple of you guys go, that'd be great. Also, we're going to have people from Fort Collins and Loveland, maybe Timnath and Estes Park, some of our other municipalities as well going. So we're trying to work through the final invite list now, but it is on your calendars as a whole, but just know that don't schedule stuff thinking it's going to be canceled because those are our dates and we're set to go. So
When do you need to know if any of us are going to participate?
I think the sooner the better that we know if there's somebody who cannot participate is absolutely not going to be able to go because then we can save that seat for another person. Otherwise, though, Cole will be reaching out to everybody to confirm attendance. We wanted to wait until we got to the point of knowing a little bit more about the exercise objectives and then the scenario because then that's going to drive who some of those participants are going to be.
Thank you.
No worries. Okay, so that's one thing from Cole. He sends his regards. The other thing is I will be coming before the board, if you guys are okay with it, via consent agenda. We usually do every couple years. I come before you guys with all of the plan updates that we have. We haven't changed any of the base plans, like the big 3-ring binder that I bring with me. But we did add some plans. So what I was going to do is send you all via email the new plans that are out. I have signed those plans. However, they will be incorporated into the Comprehensive Emergency Management Plan, and there's a resolution that you guys signed saying that everything is incorporated into that plan. So even though I sign off on it, you guys ultimately add it to our plan. So this is the mass casualty plan that we practiced and exercised last year that is out for signatures right now. That is a county-wide plan, so all jurisdictions are signing off on that. Also, a county-wide plan is the reunification plan, which was actually a couple years ago, but we've had a couple of exercises and made some changes to that. So that plan will be coming before you. And then we have a couple of plan updates. So the debris management plan, we had some lessons learned from the Cameron Peak Fire. And we are also going out for bid for new debris vendors this year. So we updated the plan with all that new information, and we're going to get new vendors for that. And then we've updated the damage assessment plan. It's now, instead of just a Larimer County plan, it's a county-wide plan again, where all municipalities are going to participate in that plan and use the same document. So just so you know, when you get that email, those 4 plans are going to be added to the comprehensive emergency management plan. All that you guys end up signing is a resolution stating that you guys approve the comprehensive plan. Nothing else has changed within that plan. Does that make sense? Are you guys comfortable with consent agenda for that, or do you want me to come to an admin matters?
Colleagues, are you comfortable with consent agenda, Commissioner?
I'm very comfortable with that, thank you.
Okay,
Yeah, I think that's fine.
okay, great.
Yes.
All right. The last thing is, I wanted to let you guys know about a carryover request that we're going to make, just so it's on your radar. We have had a great need for a number of years now for a higher level of GIS support. We have, as you can tell from a public safety perspective, there's just a ton of data that comes in, whether it's during a disaster, after a disaster, during restoration, or during preparedness. And in many cases, we've had to just say no to some requests that we've had for mapping assistance, data gathering, data collection, data storage. So just so you know what's coming is I am going to be requesting a position that would help both the sheriff's office and us for public safety specific GIS needs. And it would be somebody who would work for Enterprise GIS, work for Christine's office. However, their focus would be on public safety needs. And then that way, during incidents, they could be the primary in the Emergency Operations Center providing incident support as well as EOC support. But outside of incidents, they would also be the one who could help us manage the amount of data that we have to try to manage. We get requests a lot for various different types of either data or maps. This person could create that public-facing site that we've wanted for several years, which would allow like the fire districts to just go in and pick the layers that they want and create their own mapping products. It would also help us to manage the number of mitigation restoration projects that are currently underway throughout the community. So I know you guys have a lot on your plates, and I'm not asking you to say, yeah, Laura, we're going to do that now. I just wanted to give you guys a heads up as to why we're asking for it, what the position is for, so that it's not a surprise to you guys when you see it. And if you have any questions, you can always ask me about that. Otherwise, the only other thing that I had here was disaster policy updates, but I think I already talked to you guys about that. We did just have a site visit from the state where we went through a monitoring visit for a number of our grants. And from that monitoring visit, we found a few things that we can add to our disaster policy. And then I did talk to all of you guys about the inclusion of language for faith-based communities, which you guys had already said it would be good to go into the disaster policy. So that's going to be coming forward to the senior leadership group soon. So that's kind of my last update, just so you guys know what's headed your way. Any questions for me?
Given that we have 1 minute until, I'm wondering, I think I'd like to ask maybe, Lorinda, could you close us out?
Yeah, thank you. I'm always excited to hear the great work that's happening in the office, and really I want to sing Lauren's praises, because unwinding this ball of yarn is not easy. And not only that, but developing a process going forward so that it's easier to tell what each disaster really cost us, I think is going to be really important. She's been a great partner with the departments who do the services and with the finance department. I hear nothing but great things, and this really is a new thing this office is taking on that they did not do before. So thank you for that. Thank you all for the work you do, but I know this is new and it's been a heavy lift, Lauren. Thank you.
Thanks, Lorinda. And I think we all share that appreciation. So we'll adjourn at 3:20 p.m.